We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Hey guys, human rights attorney Lee Dundas here. I have some late breaking news from you right now. It is 1:30 East Coast time Saturday, the days after the election. I just got off the phone on a conference call with President Trump's campaign and their lawyers. I'd like to go over some of the data that they imparted. The first thing to know is media does not call elections, folks. I repeat, media does not call elections. Elections are done in a standard way that is set forth in our democratic process. And what Donald Trump wants the world to know at this point is this is no longer at this juncture a fight about a president or presidency. This is a fight about the very bedrock of our constitutional republic and the democratic process. You cannot have a free country if you cannot trust the electoral process in that country. If we have widespread voter fraud, we are no different than all of the banana republics across the world, third world countries, communist countries in which I do work. So at this point, Donald Trump isn't fighting for a president or himself. He is fighting literally for the democratic process, for the electoral process, and the integrity of it. And here's the thing. If we don't win this and get rid of all of this evil and these electoral inconsistencies and these voter fraud issues, we're never going to be able to have a safe election again in the future. And the Republican Party, or any party, is never going to be able to fairly compete on a level playing field. So this, at this point, is about much more than who's the next president. And he is absolutely in this to win this, guys. Okay, so I want to get you up to speed on a few of the states that we've all been watching like hawks, and obviously the campaign is as well. In Arizona, they have late ballots that are still dropping. They are uniformly breaking in favor of Trump, such that Biden's lead is down to about 20,000 when a few days ago it was 5 times that. They are going to continue to break in that direction, and if so, we should be good to go. If not, when it's within 1%, there's an automatic recount, as I understand it, and or a party can request a recount. Georgia is already going to a recount. The Secretary of State there, Brian Kemp, is a Republican. He is a sane guy. They have lots and lots of overseas and military ballots that are still outstanding, and it is likely going to be weeks, I repeat, weeks before Georgia can be properly tallied. Which means nobody at this point should be calling the race. Also, they have evidence of illegal ballot harvesting in multiple counties in Georgia, and they believe the recount, they know the recount is going to shine a light on this, bring all of the fraud to the surface, to the surface, where the ballots that were not properly cast can be invalidated. And again, once they handle this, then we know how it's going to shake out, and it's going to shake out in Trump's favor. In Nevada, they have 58,000, if I did not misunderstand them, mail-in ballots that still haven't been counted, and 68,000 provisional ballots. There are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of voters who never should have voted. In Nevada, lawsuits have been filed. Clark County DA's office has been notified, as has William Barr and the Department of Justice. All of those investigations are being commenced. And again, once these inconsistencies, anomalies, and straight up election issues that never should have occurred have been handled, we have a close race there, but it's a doable thing. The other thing to know about Nevada is 90 days out, guys. Apparently their legislature or governor, I'm not sure which, rammed through changes that allowed for massive mail-in voter, and their voting lists weren't up to speed. They weren't properly pruned out and weeded through. It resulted in hundreds and hundreds and thousands of ballots going out multiple times, 2, 3, 4 times over to people at different addresses, and we all know where that ends up. Again, these are things that need to be cleaned up in future years. Pennsylvania, they have 80,000 mail-in votes and 105,000 provisional ballots still outstanding. Biden thinks these are going to break in his favor. The Trump campaign has reason to believe otherwise, particularly with the provisional ballots. As we all know, the Trump campaign was barred. They were actually prevented from having observers in the process, even after the courts ordered Pennsylvania to stand the hell down and let us observe. If you don't have transparency in a voting process, you don't have democracy in function, or in fact, you don't have a constitutional republic. All of this stuff is now coming to light. They also, like Georgia, have thousands of overseas and military ballots, if I didn't already mention it. And as we are learning, and the Trump campaign is well ahead of us on this, they had statistically impossible voter turnout, which has already been referred for investigation. And they have multiple cases of counties curing deficiencies in ballots. And we all know what that means. Putting addresses on them and signatures on them when they didn't arrive with them, and doing things that should never be allowed in any sort of honest election. Again, these are the types of things that are coming to light and are being handled by the Trump campaign. Wisconsin, there were tons of irregularities on election day. The recount is starting next week. I just want to conclude with this, guys. There's a recent study that came out, literally I saw it this morning. Mathematicians, statisticians, and economists are concluding, not opining. These are subject matter experts who have conclusively now weighed in and said that the Biden math is not just statistically improbable, it is statistically impossible. And I'm going to give you a couple of key quotes from this. The voter turnout in Wisconsin apparently annihilated the historical record of 66% by almost 30 percentage points. The odds of this occurring are 0.00000. That's 5 zeros after the decimal point, guys. 0.000000189%, or 1 in 52 million. Statistical analysts have noted that this 5-point deviation was not only a statistical improbability, but a virtual statistical impossibility. I am reading direct quotes from this article, which will be in the comments. Biden also pretty clearly fails an accepted test for catching election fraud that is used by the State Department and forensic accountants. For what it's worth, I'm continuing to quote, there also happens to be a record number of 90-year-olds registered to vote in 1 year during a pandemic, more so than at any point in Pennsylvania history. Nothing suspicious there, right, guys? Final quote, and here is a list of over 14,000 dead people. I repeat, here's a list of over 14,000 dead people who either voted in Wayne County, Detroit, or were registered to vote. Again, guys, we don't have a democracy. We don't have a constitutional republic. We don't have jack squat if we don't have transparency and honesty in voter turnout, in elections, and in our presidential run. What we are fighting for right now isn't who the next damn president is. It is the very bedrock of our country. And if we lose this fight, we lose all. The other thing that Donald Trump wanted you to know is there are 3 things that we should stand by and be ready to do. 1, if you can possibly donate. I know we've all donated, but now is the time. DonaldTrump.com is where you can donate, guys. This is not a rallying cry for donation. This is just, obvious, guys. They're having to maintain thousands of attorneys at this point, and you need to get the attorneys paid to do this work. Secondly, if you notice any voter irregularity at all, or you hear of it at all, you should report it to the Trump folks, and that can happen at 1-800-895-4152. Again, that phone number is 1-800-895-4152. And the last thing we need to do is stay ready. We need to go to rallies. We need to go to protests. This is as much a spiritual and PR battle and a narrative battle at this point as it is anything else. We need to not just let President Trump know, who is fighting for us, that we're fighting for him. We need to let the world know where we stand on this. So go to your rallies, go to your protests, wave your flag, and make damn sure that you turn any sort of monkey business, funny business, or shenanigans over to the proper authorities. And you should also notify Project Veritas. If you don't know how to reach them, private message me. Take care, guys.
Joining us now, Tom Fitton. He's the president of Judicial Watch. Sidney Powell, General Michael Flynn's defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, best-selling author. I want to say, first of all, thank you both for being here, and I appreciate it. Sidney, let's start with this election process. We just heard from John Solomon that the FBI indeed is being diligent, is involved, and we all hope he is exactly right. Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Tom Fitton, as you listen to Sydney, that sounds like a strong case for a straightforward allegation of fraud. The two programs that she just mentioned, I'm going to ask you right now, have you ever heard of them? Because I had not heard of them.
No, I mean, there have been noises about it on the internet, but I don't know anything beyond what Sydney's reporting now. I go back to the numbers you reported at the beginning of the segment. The president was winning on Tuesday.
Right.
He's not winning now. And he's not winning now as a result of a process that the voters can't have confidence in, the state legislatures can't have confidence in, in my view, the courts can't have confidence in. So the question is, are the courts going to undo what went on? I don't know. But the state legislatures in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, perhaps Arizona, they now have an opportunity to make a stand on behalf of the rule of law. Are they going to endorse what went on this week, or are they going to appoint a clean slate of electors that supports President Trump? That could be the next battle, and I would think that activists interested in this issue, and if you're concerned watching this, start talking to your state legislators. And I started asking where Congress is, because Congress, in the end, is going to be the judge of the electoral college votes. And if I were in Congress, I'd be telling these states, you better keep up on, you better be honest here, because we're not going to accept your votes if your election is a sham.
Well, Sydney, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated, probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
That's called intervention in our elections, irrespective of, I guess if they were Russia or China, we'd refer to them as meddling. But it's intervention, and it's also crooked as hell, rigging this election in no matter the jurisdiction, whether it's Michigan, Georgia, wherever it might be. What can we do about it? Because the Department of Justice, I mean, if there's evidence of that program, why not just turn it over to the Justice Department and say, and go to the courts and say, this has got to stop now. Here is the way in which it was done.
Well, we've been trying to get their attention, and we're going to try even harder, and we'll have to put it in a federal lawsuit, apparently, and get as much of it out as we possibly can. We have some excellent witnesses on the issue. But this is coup 5.0, Lou. I mean, there was no reason to think that the Democratic operatives who spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, taking us through a special counsel operation for 2 years, trying an impeachment hoax, the apocalypse hoax, the obstruction hoax, wouldn't go so far as to create every means of voter fraud they could come up with to steal this election. That's exactly what happens. The president must fight back now in every way, shape, or form. We cannot let this republic be stolen by the Democratic operatives who want to destroy the republic and make it a socialist country where they continue to line their pockets with these backdoor global deals like the Biden laptop from hell exposes.
Well, Sidney, I think you're exactly right about that not happening. Let's turn, Tom. Tom Fitton, you've pointed out in our discussions that these legislatures are Republican-controlled. Who can take that message to them, and precisely how likely is it that they would be receptive to a clean slate of electors who would represent, say, the state of Pennsylvania? That's a Republican legislature, and stand up for the integrity of elections and support the president.
Well, the focus from the media and activists and regular voters and citizens need to be brought to bear here. Certainly the information we're learning from campaign activists on the ground, independent journalists like John Solomon, the work of Judicial Watch should also be brought to bear. I mean, we knew going into this election in Pennsylvania, Lou, there were 800,000 extra names in the rolls in Pennsylvania. Nevada County has 154,000 inactive names on the rolls. Clark County, Nevada, I mean. So we've got this problem of dirty election rolls, mailing and balloting being allowed to draw from them.
And apparently a Republican Party that doesn't demand that those rolls be cleaned up. I mean, that's crazy. Could you put up that graphic again, please, folks? I want everybody to see what they're looking at, because this is really very important, what Tom's talking about. The control of both chambers of the legislature in these states that are critical right now in deciding who the next president will be. Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. They must play a role in this to preserve the integrity, just as Tom Fitton is urging. And Sidney Powell, what you're breaking here tonight is extraordinary as well. We've got to go. We're at that point. But thank you both for everything you're doing for the country and for the president.
Hey friends, Sean from SGTReport.tv and SGTReport.com here. It's 11:30 p.m. Central Time as I record this, and it's my patriotic duty to share this video with you. Have you heard the terms the hammer and scorecard yet? Well, if you haven't, you're going to be hearing a lot more about those terms. And in fact, at the end of this video, you're going to hear those terms spoken by General Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell herself. What you're about to see is the single most egregious real-time example of electronic vote fraud maybe ever captured, and it occurred live on CNN. I would ask anyone watching this video to rip it, re-upload it, share it, tweet it, and email it to CNN and to anyone on President Trump's team. The mainstream media and big tech continue to claim there is no evidence of vote or election fraud in this election, and that's because they are co-conspirators in this treason. This is an interview between L. Todd Wood and voter fraud researcher Russell Ramsland. And below this video, I will leave a link to the full interview so you can hear many more examples of electronic vote fraud captured by Russell Ramsland.
This is some amazing video that you're seeing from CNN election night. And I want to go back and show you a little bit about this clip. First, I want to explain what's happening in this clip. What's happening in this clip is this is the live feed from Clarity Elections coming through the Associated Desk or Decision Desk HQ. So this is the live feed. You're seeing the database that Clarity has as it gets updated with votes, okay? And right now, oh, and this little ribbon at the bottom, this is generated by CNN. And they update this a second after they get the update from Clarity up here. So let's just look. Right now, Andy Beshear, who is the guy that upset Matt Bevin, the governor at the time, Andy Beshear has 673,948 votes. That ties to what the ribbon from CNN says. Same thing with Matt Bevin, 662,235. 662,235. Now, let me take you through, and real quick, I'm going to run it again. You're going to see, if you're watching just this gold, you're going to see a flash update, and then this guy's face fills the page, and then I'm going to show you what you really missed. So here we go. Watch the gold. The update's coming. Boom, there it updates, and now here's this guy. Now let me show you what you missed. We're going to drag this back frame by frame. And so here we are before the update, and now I'm going to start walking you forward. Watch the gold. Here comes the update from Clarity. Boom. There it is. So now the update, Andy Beshear has 674,508 votes. And look down below, Andy Beshear had 673,948. They haven't had a chance to update the ribbon because this is in split seconds we're looking now. So Andy Beshear has just gained 560 votes. That makes sense. That's what happens as more votes come in, right? Let's look at Matt Bevin. He now has 661,675. But look down below. He did have 662,235. At the exact same second that Andy Beshear has gone up 560 votes, Matt Bevin has gone down 560 votes. This is vote switching in the computer. And by the way, between the 560 gain and 560 loss, you have just seen 25% of the loss amount of this race happen in front of your very eyes.
We just heard from John Solomon that the FBI indeed is being.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
For election day, you're voting early, and you fold it up, you stick it in an envelope, and you sign it. And there's a different processing where we tabulate it back down. So even though we prefer that you use the Sharpies all the time, if you use a regular pen on an early ballot, the ink has time to dry.
I have never used a Sharpie marker.
Okay, hold on. No, I have a question about that. No. I have a question about that because she's saying that they want you to use a Sharpie all the time, but when you sent out early ballots, you specifically put instructions in there to say use blue or black ink, do not use Sharpie type pens.
Bullshit.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
It absolutely
100%.
Because I have a ballot.
And these are the votes.
I get early ballots because my daycare.
These are the votes that you guys aren't keeping track of.
That's what I mean. Use a black ballpoint pen.
These are the votes you can toss and we'll never even know it. That's why you're doing it.
The point is that the Sharpies don't, I mean, they did matter for a long time. For like a long time we had to say no to Sharpies because the bleed through would impact the vote.
You just...
The bleed through would impact the vote.
Simple as that.
For the people in the back.
Thank you for that information.
And you just said that you just said that it doesn't say that, but it does.
You know what, you should talk to our CIO.
I did. I spoke to Erica too.
So you can't answer the question. I think I'd rather talk to your lawyers. That's who I'd rather talk to at this point.
So you can't answer the questions you said you would answer.
I need the names of the people. I didn't get an email address, ma'am. I need an email.
Answer the questions you said you would answer, ma'am. Lawyers' names.
Who do I gotta talk